We are live. It is the AI revolution call. Wow, it's sort of echoey in here.
It's okay over
Yeah,
here.
man, we are. We've got all the answers. Anything you need to know, how to make money in AI, how to lose money in AI. We've got the answers. We've
That's
done
what
it
I
all.
hear. All right, then I've got the questions. If you've got
All right, that sounds perfect. This should be a good show. I'm Cody Willard, trading with Cody / 10,000 Days Funds. That's my man Bryce. He works with me on all of this stuff. I'd say we're partners.
Yeah.
And my old dear, and I mean he's old, dear friend John Dio. He known him for
78 years.
It's going to be 30.
Yeah. Okay.
30 plus years.
Yeah.
And
True.
John has been talking to me about AI since back then. Like he literally left Albuquerque to go work in Austin, Texas for, at the time, the leading AI company on the planet, maybe top 3 AI companies on the planet.
Back then, yeah.
And now he still does AI stuff. Imagine that. Like if you got in AI 30 years ago, you're golden.
I guess if you talk about getting in it as being like investing in it, but working in it, I don't know.
Well, you still got paid for doing AI stuff you love.
Yeah, yep. It's always good to
never worked a day in your life. All right, well, let's hit on some AI stuff, John. What do you want to talk about first?
So, couple things right now, just to first set the context on it. We've been talking a long time about, I don't know how long we've been doing this, almost 2 years, maybe, I don't know. But we've been talking about a lot of it has been about kind of the pace and where we're headed. And, are we still on a track for this stuff to just like take off? Is it taking off? Is it stalling? All that kind of stuff. And, the punchline is, I think it is taking off. Some of the specifics just recently, one area kind of in business, like the talk around AI being used in business, the talk is pilots are over. Experimenting is done. If you're a decent sized company, you need to be having real projects underway that are putting AI really to use. That's just what's happening now. So it's like, wake up. Sorry, you don't get to sit on the fence anymore.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Bryce and I have been writing about the fact that this economic uncertainty bubble that we're going through right now, largely off of Trump's tariff threats and flip-floppiness and ups and downs around all of that. But even an outright recession, I think, if it were to lead to that, would actually accelerate AI development. It would, those companies that you're talking about that have viable products, at least internally, helping with HR, helping with customer service, whatever they're using that AI for already, that gets accelerated in an economic downturn because companies are trying to save money.
Yeah, and in an upturn. So in this case, it's going to happen either way. It's kind of
well, that's secular growth, right? I mean, another thing we talk about often in our business is cyclical versus secular, and we don't mean religious secular. We mean the fact that in a cyclical economy, like aluminum demand, oil demand, shopping at Bergdorf Goodman, automotive cars, things go in cycles. They're in a good economy, lots of people will buy more, and in a bad economy, fewer people buy less, or more people buy less. You get what I'm saying? It goes cyclically. And in secular growth, it's simply like AI right now. It doesn't matter whether the economy is good or bad. Investments in AI agents and developing AI internally and corporations is going to happen. It's going to happen at an increasing pace with increasing amount of money thrown at it for at least the next 3, 5, 10 years.
And then on the side of capability growth, which is another thing we were talking about, something interesting happened that I heard it in one place, and then I saw the story got picked up like 3 or 4 other people. So it's like a lot of people paying attention to this, is that the way that learning happens in AI, the way the AI learns to be smarter, is developing to the point where it doesn't need humans. So it's actually able to have a kind of reinforcement learning where the feedback comes from the computer itself, which is what happened with the game of Go, right, where this game, which is much harder than chess, they thought would take much longer for computers to get good at. And then Google came along with something, DeepMind came along with something where it was this adversarial, generative adversarial network. It goes and competes against itself, and it gets better and better because, if one side gets too good, then the other side has to learn how to catch up. And in the case of this, if with the learning is something is there presenting sort of problems to be solved. And if they're too easy, then it's considered the weak link and needs to get to where it can get better. And if they're too hard, same thing. So it has to get into that Goldilocks position. And when it's there, it sets up the other side, the learning side, to just get better and better. And if that happens without people, that means that you can just throw more compute and more electricity at it. And they've shown that it is already starting to excel past the other ones that don't have this. And so that just happened last week.
John, does it need binary outcomes? You win or lose. It needs a competition.
It doesn't need
against itself. How else can you do it if it's not competing against itself in a binary outcome that you either win or lose?
It's not a binary thing, but it has to be a measurable thing. And it's not a win-lose so much as it's get the right or a right answer on like a test. So it's presented with sort of test questions, and it has to go. And what it's getting better at is reasoning. So at the base of it, you have the knowledge that you have from all these foundation models. And you guys remember you straightened me out on foundation versus frontier. But on foundation models, it's like, you got a big foundation model. It's got a good starting point of world knowledge. And then you go and have it, well, what if this happens? And then this and that, so forth. Well, then it has to use reasoning to get answers right.
Right.
And it has now the ability to know, did it get that answer right? And it can move it along.
They use incentives, right? I mean, I think that's actually the word
that's the same. The incentive is like, how did you score on the test? It makes you care as a student to be a good student. And then it says, oh, here, you get a sticker for your forehead.
Right. I don't quite understand how you give the computer an incentive, but I know that like in some of the technical papers I read, there's a good one from Google, like two guys at Google that are high up in the AI division. And they called it the experience era or something like that. I don't know if you saw that research, John.
Yes, I did.
And it was a really good paper because it talked about how we started with the Go thing at DeepMind, and then OpenAI took it a sort of another direction. And now we're going to go back to the Go thing with the L transformer architecture like underlying it all, and that the models will now learn by experience. Right now the OpenAI leading models have not learned by experience, but that's essentially what's happening now with reinforcement learning, like you're saying.
Everything is all you need. There's, they have the famous paper.
Everything is all you need.
Attention is all you need. And now it's experience is all you need. So
yeah. But I do think that's interesting that it's kind of coming full circle to what happened with Go and adversarial networks and incentives and
stuff. In any case, I mean, you can look across the landscape at everything from, we talk about the business end of things and saying it's time for everybody to be investing in doing this. You look at the companies that do have the foundation models, both whether it's open source or closed source, that there's like a fair amount of competition and leapfrogging going on there. And then you look at the actual kind of underlying technologies and you see improvements happening there. It's just that it's hitting on so many cylinders that there's a lot of movement forward.
We had a call last week with a friend of ours who's a higher up at Google AI. And just the main takeaway was sort of hitting on what you're talking about here is the amount of demand from corporations, enterprises to try to get Google to help them and or just use Google for AI, Google Cloud for AI is through the roof. He doesn't have enough people. He doesn't have enough compute. He doesn't have enough time. He just the it's exactly what you just described. If you are an enterprise right now, you do have something with AI going on internally. There is no other option. You might be slower than the guy next door to you, but you're trying to get AI into your enterprise. If small and medium enterprises, obviously not so much. They'll be a little slower to adopt in general, but certainly there are small and medium enterprises that are actually further ahead of Coca-Cola or even IBM.
Well, what I've seen recently, as I mentioned this briefly last week, with the smaller ones, is that clearly, your neighborhood laundromat isn't like, oh, I think I'll go learn about AI. But just like happened with other kinds of services to small businesses, that you get these agencies that just pop up and are like, they'll go looking for those businesses and they'll go, I can get you more customers. I can do this or that. And then they'll show them how they do it. And they're using, this term AI automation, which is really like Zapier, except a little, glamorized, make things happen more quickly and easily. And they'll just get those companies using it.
All right, John, I am going to let Bryce tell you something he wrote today for our Trading with Cody readers, subscribers. He has a prediction about Anthropic, Perplexity, any non-hyperscaler or Meta. If you're not $100 billion market cap company building AI right now, you are what, Bryce?
Well, what I wrote was that in 5 years, 7 years, I don't know that anybody's left, but I think OpenAI and Google, I think they're gonna swallow the
in Meta.
Market.
You're not saying, but the money quote is Anthropic, Perplexity, and the other smaller AI LLM companies will not be here in 5 years. They are. I'm going to put the word doomed into his.
So before you go down that prediction, maybe separate them into actual reasonable categories. Perplexity is nothing like Anthropic.
Doesn't matter. I think Bryce's point is it doesn't matter. If you don't have the money in place, if you don't have revenues in place, if you don't have subscribers in place, you don't have the virtuous feedback loops of machine learning and interacting with the public on the AI. Go ahead, Bryce.
I guess, yeah, it's because those companies do have money. Perplexity has just raised like a $14 billion valuation or something. I think we've hit the runway. Like and OpenAI and Chat and Google have taken off in terms of critical mass of users and adoption and all that kind of thing. And I just don't think that those companies have a place in AI world in 4 or 5 years.
It's like they're Alta Vista. Yeah. They're Excite in a world of Google and Yahoo.
Well, you probably can tell me the sort of the underlying law that always makes that happen, to where you're reduced down to a very few kind of oligarchic representation of kind of companies in an area. But before you go there, what about the fact that you have, your Amazon, who doesn't have something of their own that's good enough, so they go and maybe they swallow Anthropic, or right now they're.
Yeah. I definitely think so. It's interesting you bring up Amazon, because we were talking about that last week, because they sort of in a weird spot where they weren't building their own models and they work with Anthropic. Now they are also building their own models. But I think what I learned is actually from Meta, it kind of makes sense, is like there is a lot of good reasons for a company of that scale to build a custom LLM for its own business use cases, right? And that's what Meta has done with Llama. The side product of Meta building its own LLM for Meta products is that they're like, well, hell, we'll just open source it and give it away. And then we'll try to destroy anybody else that competes with us by making our stuff the open source standard.
It's the Android kind of.
Yeah. But they really don't need the open source. Like Mark Zuckerberg said the other day, we didn't build Llama so we could have an open source model to give away to the developer community. He's like,
he built Llama to make ads more effective. He built Llama to make your algorithm feed more effective, so that when you're on Insta, it's better than it was a year ago before AI was being applied to what it was feeding you as you're doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Or love scrolling, as my wife does.
So I think Amazon will need to do the same thing, whether they build that model themselves, which I think they're probably behind the 8 ball on, and maybe your scenario makes a lot of sense, John, as they end up absorbing Anthropic or something. Anthropic, I think, has a really good model for coding. I think that's why it's still around.
But Gemini leapfrogged it.
Yeah, Gemini.
I use the Anthropic one every day.
When was the last time you tried Gemini 2.5?
I tried today. I was trying to use Gemini within like Google Sheets, and it was so brain dead. I even was starting to like get mad and say snarky things back to it. It just was so bad.
You ever talk shit to your AI?
I was today. I was like, so that's your best. Okay, well, I'll see you maybe in a little while when maybe you got more intelligent. I was like talking back at it. I was pretty frustrated.
Yeah, I'm the same. I get mad at my AI sometimes, and my wife will be like, "Are you arguing with ChatGPT?" And I'm like, "Well, a little bit. Like it might be better than this."
Might be dangerous though. So
I like the reasoning models because you can see their thinking, right? And then you click on it, it's like the first thing, like the user is clearly upset. like reasons from there, I actually saw that on a tweet, which I never had it say that to me, but I saw that on a tweet. I thought
it did say that. I got to remember what it was. I won't find it right now.
I hear the same thing. Gemini 2.5 Pro pre-release, whatever the hell they call it, is like the best thing ever. So they're examples of how these things are good, though, are based around like you can one shot this great, green field program. Just go say this and boom, it makes programs. Like I deal with 100,000 lines of existing code, and where you go and make a change and it might do whatever to all this other stuff. And it's so far, Anthropic's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
So
that's what I've heard is at least in the tech world, developers really love the Claude set of models,
which is Anthropic,
right? Which is Anthropic,
of course.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there is going to be consolidation, and like just having and maybe there is a niche place where Anthropic stays around for the developer community specifically. But I mean, I have a hard time thinking that Google and ChatGPT can't.
Yeah, I said this back whenever, and I sort of still believe it is. It's like things are blurry. It's not so we talk about it like there's the people who do the foundation model, and then there's the people who do this, and it's like there's like 200 models out there that people are using, and they're all like this variation of that and whatever. And yes, what I think more is about like with OpenAI and so forth is that they've even come and said it is that they don't think that their, foundation model is what it's all about anymore. Yeah. They have to get themselves into having this whole stack and this whole application around it and all of the things that it does. And that's where they're headed is it's no longer about just the, go get me this LLM that I can go, get an answer to one question.
Certainly. We should talk about then Amazon or OpenAI bringing in a new co-CEO to do product.
CEO product. She came from
Instacart, which I thought was a funny.
That is an interesting,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not a cutting edge AI.
No, but it's about
I don't mean it's a good.
And is Instacart really a cutting edge itself either?
Yeah,
like it's fine. Cutting edge. One groceries, it's sort of your de facto standard, but
that's what you want is your standard. You don't want your like, oh look, they're the absolute coolest scientifically and whatever. It's like no, is it what everybody uses? Yeah, that's who you want.
Yeah. See, and I still come back to the fact that millions of people will stop using Google the way they've been using it, but billions of people, hundreds of millions of people will continue to go to Google, and that will be their primary AI experience for the next 2 or 3 years, other than the times that they're on their Facebook app and they're like, oh, there's what do they call the llama, and they're like, oh, push the llama button and let's see what AI what it's suggesting.
Even Altman said that. He was just talking to Congress, and they said, "Do you think Google is still going to be?" He was like, "Yeah, they've got a lock, so they got so many people."
Did he lie to Congress again today, and like he did last?
Well, he said that, which you agree with. So he didn't not every word out of his mouth.
I do this out of love. I don't have it. I don't get paid at all for this.
He's not going to be running a for-profit thing because
it's a PBC.
Because no one's going to let him. Yeah, it's a B Corp, but it's
still profit. It's still profit driven.
It's surrounded by the nonprofit. So yeah, it is, but it's supposedly
he's a liar. That's the point of my story.
I got it. I got the point. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to say
my point was
people watching.
My point was that it was funny how he said, after consultation with the attorney general of this state and the attorney general of that state, we determined blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they told you they're not going to let you do it. So
yeah, you don't consult with your HE.
Yeah.
I just, one thought on that though is like I think we've been pretty skeptical of OpenAI this whole time, but I just, in my last 3 months, I've just sort of come around to the idea that this thing has hidden, like feel like it's gotten critical mass.
Yeah, it does.
And the product is good. I use ChatGPT a lot alongside Gemini. And going to your point a second ago, John, it's still unclear. I totally agree with that. Like in my prediction, the Anthropic goes away. Like, I mean, who knows, right? But that is a prediction I'm willing to make. But in the article that Cody's referencing, I use this analogy to World War II after the Battle of El Alamein, which was the first big win for the Brits in Africa. Churchill came out and said, "This is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end, but it might be the end of the beginning." And I sort of think that's where Google's at now. I think it's the end of the era of them lagging, in the AI world. And I think
they're about to be on offense.
Right. They're playing offense, and the road ahead is going to be long and bumpy, but I think there's a path to victory for Google.
So if you put Google and OpenAI into like the Earth's core, and then surrounding that was the ones that are making domain-specific kind of models that everyone's going to base off of. And around that are, AI application companies. And around that are, just companies in general that use AI or something. Like, where do you think, how thick is the crust? Where do you think most of the GDP of AI is happening in all of that?
I'm going to have to rewind you, take you one lower layer. What's inside of the core?
The electric companies and the
NVIDIA, being the underlying foundation for it all. I would call that the actual core then. And then,
then it goes to prove it. I think proves my point maybe, which is because I could say, look at NVIDIA. What they say, like give it another year or two. Okay, they're at $2 trillion, right? What's the AI economy at? $70 trillion or something. So it's like that. It's not all in there is what I'm getting at. We spend a lot of time.
That's what I'm saying. So I would call NVIDIA the core, and then you got the foundation models around it. Then you've got the LLMs around that. And then you got
AI
Coca-Cola
companies. No, before Coca-Cola, you probably have AI application companies that are.
All right. Yeah. And then you got the enterprises that are adopting this stuff and trying to make their soft drink business slightly more profitable, grow slightly quicker, get better distribution and supply chain management and whatever else you're doing with AI internally to get your profits slightly higher.
And I'm sure there's stuff we're leaving out of that. You could put government.
Well, and that's what I was going to say a minute ago, John, is with the one thing I know for sure that I am not smart enough to know all of the brilliant applications and services that AI will enable and just create itself that never could have existed before. And we are all sort of getting to the point where you can picture talking to a device. It doesn't have to be a phone. It could be Meta glasses. It could be a pin you wear. But where you're literally, one of the things where Bryce wrote in that article today was you're like, hey, I need to go to Italy for a week. Make sure I get first class tickets. My budget's $10,000. I need to, I want to hit a bunch of museums while I'm there. Set that up and make sure I have tickets for everything. And that's a very low hanging fruit. We can picture it, going to do that. And even that's miraculous. It really is miraculous that you're not going to have to be punching this shit anymore. You're not going to have to be dialing stuff anymore. Like, we are progressing to the point where you're just going to talk. You're going to think things. Like, even the Apple Vision Pro, you put that stuff on and you don't even need to punch the keyboard. You don't need the mouse. You just go like that in the air, and whatever you're looking at, it knows that's what you're talking about, that you're pinching. Like, that's where we're going with all of this. And it's going to get just increasingly easier to use, more productive, more efficient. And beyond that, the applications, being able to do stuff we never pictured people doing with computers or at all. Like, it just gets easier and better and faster. And there's millions of things to do.
Obviously, we don't know all the specifics yet, but if you think of it as being like,
operator, give me
Dr. Watson
729. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's Sheriff Andy Taylor. Yeah,
Mohawk 11. Yeah, they start with
that's in North Carolina, Mount Pilaf. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So it made me think about my mother used to work in North Carolina for the phone company, actually doing the stuff where you go like to.
Wow.
So you
totally ruined it.
Like, the point that they're making is, even if you don't know what all the specifics are about all those like wonderful things going to happen, there's some things is that it's going to happen in layers like that. And my point is that we spend a heck of a lot of time talking about those inner layers, NVIDIA, OpenAI, and it kind of, they're the ones you can put your hand on because you know what their name is and what's up with them. But if you're talking about like, I'm going to invest in AI, is it that you're going to invest in those pure pieces at the center that amount for 6.3% of what happens with AI? Or do you find a way to recognize the companies that are utilizing it effectively? And
my answer, I bet Bryce will agree with me, and maybe an additional commentary, is that, look, in general, the biggest success I've had as an investor is buying Apple, the maker of the iPhone, buying Google, the dominant Android, YouTube search engine, buying not their suppliers, but buying the companies that truly are the core that everything gets built on top of. Now, that being said, people have made a lot of money owning Priceline, which became an obvious app revolution play over years, but it had, like, the smartphone enabled a lot of growth at Duolingo. Like, without this smartphone, Duolingo's market cap would be 1/50th of what it is today. But the smartphone enabled it to grow and make a lot of money. So, John, it's not mutually exclusive. There's not necessarily even a right answer. I think we should and need to find a couple of the AI application companies that might not even exist yet today, but will be created sometime this year, and they're coming public in 2027, 2 years, and their revenue went from $0 to $150 million, and next year they're projecting $600 million, and in 5 years you can model out it's $3 billion, and you want to get in front of that train, even though the stock's trading right now at 5 times sales or something. Like, that pitch is going to be there.
So, taking what you're saying, I'm thinking that Apple got you somewhere. There may have been something that was sort of based on Apple, like with it took advantage of the whole app revolution kind of thing, but that's not Apple, and it doesn't get you as far.
But John, it's partly what your starting price. I mean, if you I caught Apple in March 2003 at a cost adjusted 20 cents a share. But if you bought Apple when the smartphone came out, you paid $80 a share. It's at 200. You still made a lot of money. But there was a time when you could have bought Priceline at $50 a share, and what's it at? Probably 2,000 or something right now. I haven't looked at it forever.
Yeah, no, I was getting at the point is that Apple is sort of a wait, what's the term I'm looking for? Vertical,
horizontal.
No, yeah, it's horizontal, but I'm talking about like when you buy your mine and you get
vertical integration.
Vertical integration, even though they're horizontal, vertical integration. So like Tesla, vertical integration. It's like they're going to go and own everything from the batteries on through production capability, then start making other things that take advantage of that production capability, make the automatic driving, then build other things that make use of that same kind of technology. So that's where I talk about vertical integration. And if you're looking at, it's like AI applications, you want to look at something like an OpenAI, not because they have the underlying technology, but because they're going to build vertically on, and then they own both. Somebody comes along, if they're based on OpenAI, it's like if OpenAI thinks those other folks have something important, they'll go make it themselves, just like Google has done all those times. Like, oh, we'll just, we'll acquire, or
they'll let you build on top of them because they win anyway if you're using
but then you win with the vertically integrated.
When I first came to Wall Street in the late 90s, it was taught in business schools and on Wall Street that you did not want to be vertically integrated. You wanted JIT.
Just in time.
Thank you. I knew you'd know it. You wanted JIT. You didn't want vertical integration. You didn't want to own it. You wanted to be a compiler. You wanted to be Dell. GM and Ford eventually moved towards that model. GM spun out Delphi. They started sourcing stuff from China. They got more and more components from other places. They don't even bother making their own seats anymore. Everything got outsourced. They just compiled it, right, and put it together. And who called Elon was it Navarro? Was like, oh, he just puts the cars together. He doesn't.
Yeah. Elon was not very happy with him.
Yeah, I don't blame him. But I will say, when I started buying Tesla 6 years ago, I had to check that premise. It was a difficult transition for my brain to embrace vertical integration, because I had learned for 20 years that vertical integration was a mistake. And I think that's, I love anytime someone takes anything conventional wisdom that has gotten to be standardized and you're like, hey, it's actually wrong. We can do it better by doing exactly opposite, which is exactly what Elon did. And to this day, every car company now, including GM and certainly Rivian and startups, they strive to be as vertically integrated as they can be. If you're going to start a smartphone company, actual hardware company today, say Huawei in China, you're trying to be vertically integrated. You want to make the chips, you want to make the components, you want to be as vertically integrated, you want to construct it itself, etc. I mean, that being said, Apple has not been a bad investment, and it is not vertically integrated.
Well, what about Uber?
I think there's an important nuance. There's vertical integration, there's platform, right? Apple's fantastic because it's a platform that everybody else has to use, and so is Google. And Tesla is kind of that's a more unique type of business model, I think. I don't think that in tech necessarily you talk about vertical integration because you're usually not dealing with physical goods.
You know what's interesting on that note with Tesla, if we could, John, continue to expand on this a little bit, it's that, look, the Optimus robot could become a platform in the same way that the iPhone and the Android phones did. There will be an app store, and you'll be like, hey, $5,000 and I can download the rebar tying construction app, or for $500 I can download the carry my daughter around the house app. Like, you're going to be and so it does become a platform. And it's also vertically integrated because it literally built it and did everything in it. So they're not mutually exclusive. Platform and vertical integration are not mutually exclusive. And that might be the magic formula. Partly why we love the opportunity here in Tesla right now is because it's both.
Yeah.
Well, like I've said, what about, Uber is not vertically integrated. It's not at all. It's not integrated at all. It's like, doesn't have anything. They amazed me. They came out, they're just an app, and all of a sudden
they are just an app. The argument, the bullish argument for Uber right now from guys like Gary Black and others that we see talking or writing about it, is that that critical mass of users and cars gets to be less important in autonomy, that you don't need the drivers, but that somehow that critical mass of, hundreds of millions of users of the existing users of the Uber app gives it enough of a competitive advantage that Tesla won't be able to catch it. I'm pretty sure at this day and age, if you're going to save 50% on every time you get a ride somewhere because you're using the Tesla full self-driving autonomy, robotaxi, instead of a car with a human being that has to be paid and is less safe, and you have to tip the guy, you're going to download that damn Tesla app on your phone, even if you're a Democrat and you hate Elon Musk for the next 6 weeks until
why not Uber just start another, they always have like here's my 6 different kinds of cars I can get, and they go, I'll take the one without a driver.
Yeah, good luck with being able to compete on Tesla on price with that.
No, I mean they would partner with Tesla, I assume, to do that.
You think Tesla's interested?
Yeah, because I think
Elon Musk already this weekend basically gave Uber the finger on Twitter. He's like,
my thought was you could easily go and partner with them to get.
Why give Uber anything?
Just to get jump started, and then you have a bazillion users, and the next day you flip the app and you do whatever, and it's like now you don't need them anymore, but you just use it because of the installed base and getting the people to, to switch over.
I mean, I thought it made a lot of sense for Tesla to do that. And Elon made very clear that that's not what they're going to do.
Yeah, we truly,
I owned Uber for a long time, but for that reason, thinking that they would be the platform, they have a long history of working with Tesla, like on the Hertz program, things like that. And so,
if you'd asked us this 18 months ago, 2 years ago, our answer would have been Uber is going, Tesla will want to partner with Uber. We had that thought process, but Elon for 6 months now has been saying, no way. We don't want their partnership. We don't want to be involved with them. We can do this from the ground up. Total vertical integration again.
Let me go back for a second to Optimus. I want to understand. I mean, I think Optimus seems, really. What do you got? Oh, you got your Optimus there?
I got. Yeah.
I think it looks really cool. I think that what it can. All right. I think what it seems to be able to do so far, pretty good. But I'm also seeing incredible use cases from other robots doing things. Whether it's like cleaning the kitchen, starting to fold laundry, and so forth. And I don't very often see new updates on Optimus and it doing new things. I've seen like one every 6 months or something. So like, what makes you so sure that for them, is it because they're Tesla?
Partly because they are Tesla and they've proven it, and they are miles ahead in the AI foundation model of interacting with the physical world. That is a large part of my bullishness on it. But beyond that, I mean, you ever played a Chinese-made Fender guitar?
No, just a violin. Yeah.
It sucks. You can tell it's not American-made. It just doesn't have that feel. It doesn't work as well. That analogy works in the Optimus robot. Do you really want to buy some crappy Chinese-made or even some crappy Figure AI-made robot that has limited functionality? It would be like buying a Nokia Symbian phone.
I see some Chinese robots. You saw the video with the thing doing like.
You're really going to let that thing carry your daughter? Yeah, you have a medically fragile daughter. You're going to let some random Chinese robot that doesn't have all the.
I don't think I'm going to let any robot from anybody do it. But I'm saying if you look at and not as that being the case, the thing to look for them carrying you, but if you look at like that robot from I forget which Chinese company where you see it's on wheels. But what's that? Unitree. And it's like doing parkour, and it's going up and down and all over and jumps and flips.
10 years ago, Boston Dynamics had the same robot doing the same pre-programmed.
It's not pre-programmed like Boston Robot.
It is.
Boston Robotics. Yeah.
A couple things. I do think China has the capability to crank out very high quality manufactured goods. number one, the iPhone, right? They make the damn thing. So I'm not putting it past China to be able to make very high quality products, but I do think in the robot thing, it does come down to the AI and having the software to do it. And I don't.
Yeah, but doesn't NVIDIA have
Tesla and the AI software race?
That I would push back on that though, Bryce, because the NVIDIA robots platform is
that's what I'm getting at.
Built for like to be agnostic in the form factor and then allow it to enable to do it. And I do think there will be other companies, probably all in the United States, most of them in the United States, that compete against the Optimus robot. And the other form factors can be children, droids from Star Wars that are like pets or slightly functional.
Yeah, I don't get that
stuff and things. But I don't I think in 5 years, you don't want a random, and I don't just mean to pick on China. I just mean like a lower level, less advanced version of a robot that could trip over your children, that could get its feet tangled on the stairs. That
your argument is
going to be physically like threatening to you, and you need to have the safest and best robots if you're going to put that in your house.
Yeah, I say to you, why do you think Optimus is the best? And your answer is because these others are the worst. And it's like that's not exactly an argument. Like the thing you're saying about NVIDIA is what makes me wonder. It's because like if they can have a platform that gives the kind of AI that you're like Tesla has this underlying AI, NVIDIA has this underlying. NVIDIA's AI has can simulate a million worlds, and its world number 1,000,001, as they call it, is our world. So it's like if they can go and have the thing operate successfully, and I've seen this like in VR, where they got the robot trying things and failing and doing it all whichever way with all the physics behind it, and then it starts to get the hang of it. Then they go, okay, here, do it in the regular world, and it does it on the first try because the regular world's no different. It's just another simulation.
I think, John, my opinion is I do agree that NVIDIA is the biggest threat to Tesla's robot strategy.
I agree with that.
But there's sure doesn't seem like that simulation is at the point where it can match that real world data feedback. I think the proof of that is just in what's happening with autonomous vehicles. I think if it was possible to do that, Google probably would have figured that out for Waymo at some point in the last 20 years or something, or NVIDIA. Somebody would have figured out how to do simulation and get enough data that way that you don't need this real world data to train that.
It's been very recent.
The other thing I'm going to go back to is you will end up with a handful or fewer platforms, and it'll probably be an NVIDIA platform and it'll be a Tesla platform. And then you will have these applications where they have trained that form factor built on that platform to do millions of different services, applications, helping out at a hospice hospital, helping out at a construction site, doing teeth cleaning. All of these different things will come over time. Now, that being said, the robotics revolution is going to be bigger than the humanoid robotics revolution. The humanoid robotics revolution might be the single most valuable and highest margin part of the robotics revolution, but you've already probably have seen this week, there are BurgerBot restaurants now. There are BurgerBot restaurants now, and it literally is like 20. Do you see this video?
Yeah.
27 seconds for robot arms to make you a hamburger. And they're selling them. You go to the BurgerBot, it's somewhere in California. You go to the BurgerBot restaurant and you get a hamburger made for you in 27 seconds by a robot arms. Like, that's happening.
Sure,
it's going to happen more. So it's not like you're going to have humanoid Optimus robots making your Chipotle bowl, but you will have robots arms making the Chipotle bowl, and there will probably be Optimus robots carrying the food from the back refrigerator to the counter.
I like the one with Optimus when this is almost a year old or something, but somebody throws it a ball. I think it was like a Nerfish thing, but except it was baseball sized, and it just throws it over and it goes, and just catches it. And I'm like, finally, it's moving at regular speed.
John, the other thing that I guess I'm struggling to verbalize it. These thoughts are in my head better than they are coming out of my mouth, but the reason you're not seeing Optimus do gimmicky updates very often, like Unitree is constantly doing these gimmicky updates, like, hey, look, now it can do like karate, woo, and now look, it can walk in a marathon race, and not like Tesla is building a foundational platform that's bigger than all of those gimmicks. And they're trying to make that robot interact with the real world like a human being would. And these other robots, their strategies are different. I don't think that they are building a foundation that is going to be like, society changing. It's going like the humanoid robots, probably from Tesla, because they will probably be the best, will change society forever. Yeah. And I don't know that the Unitree robots are going to be anything more than just sort of complementary.
So, except for NVIDIA, as we just said. And I think that Tesla is going to have to do more of what NVIDIA is doing. And Bryce, to something you were saying, the fact that this, it would have happened because Google would have done it with Waymo and so forth. It's like, no, this is very new. This is kind of having the simulation environment that's got enough physics in it and that isn't enough either, just having the physics. You have to now combine with that the real world stuff of what's likely to show up in a kitchen. What happens if this thing drops and does it break or so forth? So there's some qualitative physics.
And see, but John, I think a lot of that stuff will be downloadable. Like, are you going to be using this robot for your house? Here are the apps you need.
No, but it has to exist for it to be. I agree with you about downloadable, but it's an important part of this robotics economy that doesn't exist, that NVIDIA has started. And I wonder if NVIDIA even keeps doing it, or if they more have done it as a demonstration, and it's others who buy NVIDIA, set up a shop the size of what Elon just set up, and go, we have the best simulated world in the world, and go run your robots on it or off of it or train on it, kind of thing.
I've been thinking about this very topic lately, and it seems like AI has leapt past. It used to be that Unreal Engine, and what's the Epic version of it? Unreal is.
No, I think that is
right. Epic is Unreal. What's the
Unity is the other one?
What's the Unity's called?
I think it's called Unity.
That was a different name. Doesn't matter. There are these two platforms right now that video game developers have been using for years that sort of that enable you to bypass trying to train your football players on physics. It's like, hey, the real world works like this, and now you can build your application, your software around that, on that engine. And it sure looks like NVIDIA and others have leapfrogged that platform, that Unity and Epic Games platform.
Agreed.
They are making their own physical real world platform.
And it does things.
They're better. They seem better.
Yeah. It's better. And there's probably some things it doesn't do that the other ones were doing, but it's
it'll catch it. That'll catch it in like 6 weeks. Some machine learning.
They're aimed at a different goal. Their goal is not just making a video game. So that's it's important, the different goal that they have. And then that, what's that, Wei Li, or the woman who was working with one of OpenAI's founder guys who left, she has started a company around this virtual world stuff. Yeah. And it's like, there's more of that showing up. And I think it may turn out to be a very important kind of piece of the puzzle foundationally, along with these models, and maybe watch for who's going to be the OpenAI or the Google or whatever of that, and look for latching onto them.
Yeah. Well, I think to tie it back to what we were talking about earlier with the platform deal, I don't know that anybody in the robotics space has the potential to be those kind of platforms besides Tesla or NVIDIA, and maybe Google as a distant third.
I agree 100% on all three of those names. Yeah.
Figure is maybe building a product that turns out to be decent down the road, but they're going to end up utilizing one of those other three names for the compute, the data, all of that other stuff to for that to be able to work. And I think the same is true of the Chinese competitors, which I think there's a real threat there. I mean, maybe in the aggregate, China figures something out that ends up working, but they're certainly not there yet.
I think there's better chance that some Chinese-based companies end up doing a great robotics thing, then let's just throw it out there. Figure AI. I don't necessarily agree with Bryce that Anthropic is doomed. I will throw it out there. 10 years from now, Figure AI doesn't exist. 5 years from now, it's probably a penny stock that's already come public, and Brett Adcock got to grift all the retail
You
investors.
just seem a little emotional about it. I mean,
I get mad at Brett Adcock.
Yeah, I'll take it. Your emotion as being kind of like compressed experience and knowledge. You can talk about it just emotionally.
You're very generous. You should meet my father. He's just mad about anything all the time. So,
speaking of
internal, I was trained on this. You talk about training in real world environments. You should be around my dad for a year.
You know, one other analogy for some of these robot companies that are not like
rage learning.
What do you call it?
Machine learning, rage learning. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Johnny. Not humanoid robots, but just robotics in general. You know, it's a broader area and everything. It reminds me a little bit of my mother's father, who I never met. This is going back a ways, but he had a company in New York that made machines that made paper bags. That's what I remember. It was just told to me and everything. And it reminds me that there's like all of these, you know, the whole manufacturing sector is made of, you know, companies that have these specialized machines that make things.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's lots of room for all kinds of robots to come along.
Going back to then the vertical integration in Elon, you know where I'm going with this. Like Elon famously talks about that Tesla's biggest advantage is that they make the machines that make their machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And think of it that that's good for the robots, again, the humanoid ones, the ones they're going after and stuff, but for where they're not going after it, just the notion at all of machining and making automated things that do machining, and then that opening up a new age of kind of creativity for making things. You know, it doesn't all happen with just a couple of behemoth companies. There's so many companies out there.
Yeah, I mean, like Cody said, it could be the biggest revolution ever. So there's probably going to be a lot of players, right? And lots of niches and suppliers and components. Servicing, like what about people servicing robots, and maybe you have like your local auto parts store.
Won't you have robots servicing robots more effectively than a human being could service the robot? It's like machine learning.
Maybe you're gonna have 50. Your city might have 50 different form factors of robots, and you need somebody that knows how to work on all of them. Just like you need somebody who knows how to work on all cars, right? I don't know.
If I can shift, because there's so many areas to go into with this, but we've been talking very much about sort of the physical and the robots and so forth. At the software, at the other end of this is what's happening is this kind of agent revolution, agent thing. Yeah. And what that is, you know, you've got these the ChatGPT kind of thing that people are using to go answer an individual question. But then when you want to send off the computer to do something that's going to take some time to do, these things are getting more intelligent about doing a series of things. And the difference between like an agent or agent software, agents and so forth, versus what you call workflows and automation like that, is that, you know, workflows are predetermined what's going to happen. So like, go do this and put this in here and copy this down and delete that and so forth. And it's like a set thing that it goes and does. An agent is more like you give it a set of functions, which are, you call them tools, but they're just like things it can do. And then you say, here's what I want done. And it figures out which one to pick up and use to get it the next point along the way. And that's what an agent does. And the next step from it is to have a team of agents, and they interact with each other. And this one asks that one to do something, and it goes and asks it to do it. And then it figures out what to do and carry it along, kind of thing. So it's just like there's a lot going on in that end of the.
You just made me think. I don't know where I put it, but here it is. A book that you told me to get.
Oh yeah.
Marvin Minsky, The Society of Mind, and literally, it starts off. You might not even remember this, John, but it starts off saying that we should think of
our own brains.
Agents.
as
He's
being a
like,
society
yeah,
of
how do
agents.
agents work? To explain the mind, we have to show how minds are built from mindless stuff, from parts that are much smaller and simpler than anything we'd consider smart.
It's a brilliant book.
Oh, it's so fascinating. And so wait, let me just say, he says, but what could those simpler particles be? The agents that compose our minds. This is the subject of our book. And knowing this, let's see our task. And then that's exactly what he talks about. He's like, each agent individually is stupid, mindless. It doesn't work. But somehow the agent that tells your hand to close around this communicates with the agent that knows if you move it to the right, you can put it down over here, which connects to the agent that knows that gravity will keep it on the table.
Yeah, like the grasp agent has no idea why, that there's like this destination for the stapler or anything like that.
It just knows it's going to grasp.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you got that, and I hope you
enjoyed
it.
I'm only literally I'm like this part through with it. Like, I mean, I just got started and it already has made, like, you're talking about agents, and today's agents, AI agents, are simply the same kind of things we've got in our brain. And that's part of what what was the military thing you talked about where GPUs are this and CPUs are single file versus
just like the old school way of like marching on a field in parallel
processing, parallel agent work. Like like you've got some agents that are on top, but then there's all these parallel agents underneath doing all the work that know how things work and can actually purchase the ticket for Italy for us.
Can I tell you one thing about that book? And with the reading it is that it's written so that you can flip anywhere in it. Every section is on a single side of a page. It doesn't flow through, and you can read it in any order. So you can just kind of flip it open, see something interesting, and it's kind of self-contained.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep going. A theory of memory. Like, that's some good shit right there. We're going to try to understand how the brain remembers stuff. He was great. I got to work with him in person. So. Are you serious? Yeah. Marvin Minsky. He's one of the creators of AI back in the 50s. Like Harvard AI? Or no, but like there were 5 guys who created AI in the 50s. Yeah. And, what were you going to say, Bryce?
It sort of seems like when you think of it that way, intelligence is kind of like there are horizontal layers to it and vertical layers, and somehow all of the layers combine to arrive at what we see as intelligence. But there's all these little subsystems, right, that have to work together. Yeah. And right now in AI, we are starting to just build like some of these very simple little subsystems. And now a few of these subsystems might be able to communicate with each other. Like Google rolled out a platform, they have a name for it, something agent, where, it's going to be a standard protocol where, the Salesforce agent can speak with the Google agent, can speak to the HubSpot agent or whatever, I don't know if we're going to end up with thousands of SaaS applications after this is all said and done. I sort of think we won't. But and you can see in the interim, right, that Salesforce has unique capabilities, HubSpot has unique capabilities, your ERP has unique capabilities. And if Google's agentic thing can talk to all of them, you start to get a thing that looks like an employee that can get real shit done.
Salesforce owns a certain coordinates in problem space. It's like when you think of salespeople having their kind of leads organized and what they're going to go work on and blah, blah, you think Salesforce. And whether that happens to be SaaS or whether that happens to be a million cooperating agents, like they own that mind space around that problem. And so that's the way to kind of think of what they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're SaaS or not.
And it's totally proprietary. It is, there's no one else that can copy CRM.
It's very hard to jump in on. Now, one thing about these people like Minsky and stuff like that, a way to think of what's going on is like he thought of that stuff so many years ago, and it still makes so much sense. But at the time he did, it was so
groundbreaking.
Yeah, but also theoretical in the sense that it would have taken. It's like, how will we ever make such a thing happen? We have no idea.
John, do you know when this book was written?
When it was written?
What year?
1988 or
damn, he's good. 85.
Okay.
So it's a 40-year-old theory.
Yeah. So like it's super smart, makes sense and everything, but it was like the way we thought of it was we have no idea yet how people would make such a thing occur. But if they did, here's a way to think about it, right? Now, what we have, and this happens for me with my work with ontology, which I don't go into now, but it's like the same kind of thing. We were like, we know it needs to kind of be like this and structured in this way, and it's really smart, blah, blah, blah. Oh, guess what? The large language model can do 90% of it for me now. I just needed to know what to tell it, what to ask it. So all this stuff can start to take shape in a way it never could. That's my point.
Amazing. Last words, John, or do you want to leave it with that?
That was it.
Bryce?
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you for watching the AI call. I'm Cody Willard. That's John Dio, Bryce Smith. We will not be here. John's like farting around doing vacation-y stuff next week. Bryce and I, we're going to Hong Kong and Taiwan to work. Hong Kong to meet investors and potential investors and our brokerage firm partners, and then Taiwan to meet. Hopefully, we'll actually get to talk to some Taiwan semiconductor people. We've got some great meetings set up, and we'll be at Computex in Taipei next Thursday. So no AI call next week, and we'll be back 2 weeks from today.
The week after that is Memorial Day, so you have to decide what you're.
And we won't do it then either.
Yeah. So we'll see you soon.
Bryce refuses to work on holidays. It's bullshit.
I
And he
know.
finds every Catholic or Jewish or Christian or Hindu holiday he can find.
Your robots are going to do that too. So.
Yeah, a robot can't actually like turn off the lights in a Jewish Hasidic neighborhood after dark on a Friday night. Yes, it can.
But will it?
Yeah, maybe they'll code it to not do that.
Hey, have a good trip, guys.
Yeah, anything less? What were you about to say?
I don't remember.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
See you, Johnny. Be safe out there.